everybody, so as we all know, as programmers, the best thing for us to do in order to understand something is just to do it right. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to go over an example called speed converter, and we are going to create some pseudocode, then program the given pseudocode, and see if it works. If you guys are wondering where I got this example from, as we know, it's a very common coding example, but after we program it in IntelliJ, I'm going to put it in a tester on Udemy for the Java Programming Masterclass for software developers. This is a new thing that Udemy added in. It's just coding exercises. It's just to help us practice and prepare for coding interviews. So let's start off with the pseudocode. So the name of the project is going to be called Speed Converter. The first method we're going to create is 2 miles per hour that takes in one parameter of type double with the name kilometers per hour. This method needs to return the round value of the calculation of type long. If the parameter kilometers per value is less than 0, the method 2 miles per hour needs to return -1 to indicate an invalid value. Otherwise, if it is positive, calculate the value of miles per hour, round it, and return it. For conversion and round, click the notes in the text below. So to start off the pseudocode, we do know that the function's name is 2 miles per hour. You can do this on paper as well. I just know some of us don't always have paper with us anymore since we have our computers. And it's going to take in one argument, which is kilometers per hour. And the whole point of the function is to calculate the value of miles per hour, round it, and return it. Now I know some of you guys are probably wondering, like, why should we have to write this in? It's kind of redundant. True, it is redundant, but later on when we do bigger projects, it's important to have our pseudocode organized so we know how to trace our coding or our programming, so we know how it works. The other thing we missed here is the fact that if it's less than 0, return -1, it indicates an invalid value. We don't necessarily need to write that because we do know it already. It's kind of a given, but I can write it right here. So if kilometers is less than 0, we will return -1. Now this right here, it's not exactly pseudocode because it's the exact way you would program it. But it's also a way of you kind of seeing the function, the method within the function. So that's all we would have to do for argument 1. And then there's the output. We'll go over the output later. Method 2, we have to write another method called print conversion with one parameter of type double with the name kilometers per hour. This method should not return anything, which means it's going to be a void method, and it needs to calculate miles per hour from kilometers per hour parameter. Then it needs to print a message in the format of xxhm/h equals yyhi/h, which is kilometers per hour equals miles per hour. The double x represents the original value of kilometers per hour, and the double y represents the rounded miles per hour from kilometers per hour parameter. If the kilometers per hour is less than 0, then print the text invalid. So on this second function, I'm not going to do the less than 0 because it's like 2 lines of code. And we kind of know that already. Just for this example, I may do it for future examples. So the title of this function is called print conversion. And it's going to take in one argument or parameter. And the point of this is to calculate miles per hour to kilometers per hour and then print it. So that, in a nutshell, in the simplest form, is roughly what our functions are going to look like. If we scroll down a little bit further, it's going to show us more output of the conversion. Basically, there is no difference between this conversion here and the print conversion down here at the bottom. It's just showing different outputs. I'll explain it a little more to you guys when we actually do the coding itself. And in order to round, what we're going to do is we are going to use a math.round method that's already built into Java. If you guys want to see any more of this, you guys can pause the video here and kind of look at the example that's given on Udemy for a math.round in terms of how to use it, but we're going to use math.round in the coding right now. So I've already set up the IDE with the project or the class called speed converter. So now we're going to create the functions that we just created the pseudocode for. The first function is going to be called 2 miles per hour. We know it's going to return long because when we round it, it's going to be returning it into a long variable. Just because if you run the calculation of converting kilometers per hour to miles per hour, it's going to give you a long decimal. Remember, you have to take in type double. First step we have to do is calculate the value It's good to write these lines in. It helps you keep your code kind of organized. Sorry guys, I had a little cough there. Okay, so to calculate the value from kilometers to miles per hour, if the user gives us the value of kilometers per hour, we're going to store it into a long variable. I'm going to title that miles, because basically once it does the conversion, it's going to be miles per hour. Now, the easiest way to do this is to put it all in one line and use math.round. Now, if you saw, it's asking for a float or a double, which is the kilometers per hour parameter that we're getting from the user. So we input kilometers per hour and we divide that value by the conversion, which in this sense, for the example given based on their test cases, they want us to use the number 1.609. When you look it up to actually convert kilometers to miles per hour, it's 1.609344. But for this case, we're going to use just this one. If you see the little error right there on line 11, it's because we don't have a return yet. We're going to return miles once this is calculated. So the only thing left to do in this method is to add in the invalid option, which is kind of easy. Well, it is easy. Invalid option. It's invalid if the kilometers per hour is less than 0. So we're going to say if kilometers per hour is less than 0, we're going to return -1. Okay, so now that first method is finished. So now let's go on to the second method. Let's public, static as well, but this one's void, if you remember in the instructions before, because the only main purpose of this function is to print out the conversion. It's going to be double as well because it's going to take in the same parameter basically as miles per hour. Am I using the right parameter? The only thing that sucks about these coding exercises is all the variables and spacing and all that kind of stuff has to be exactly the same. Okay, yeah, I am using kilometers per hour. Otherwise, the test cases won't work. So if you can see, your first question might be, aren't we doing the same thing in print conversion as we did in 2 miles per hour? We still have to calculate 2 miles per hour. Oops. Spelling errors. Calculate the value from kilometers to miles per hour. And the answer is yes, it's exactly the same thing. And because it's exactly the same thing, we don't have to take the code, we don't have to write the code again, we can just call 2 miles per hour in print conversion. So that's what we're going to do. 2 miles per hour, we're going to send the kilometers per hour from print conversion to miles per hour on line 3, and it's going to step through miles per hour on line 3, and it's going to return miles. So by returning miles, we have to declare another variable in print conversion, also type long. I'm going to name this one conversion. But now, instead of us returning a value, we're just going to print out the given statement in the format showed on the other page. For you guys forgot the format, it was XX. We can go back and look, and then I'll type it on there. There it is, XXKM/H equals YY MI/H. So the way we do that is we have to break it down basically. So the double XX is the kilometers, right? So we're just going to take the kilometers that was inputted in from the parameters, and then we're going to take the new result on the other side, and it's giving me an error right here, if you can see, because I forgot the plus symbol. And the only thing that's left here is we have to set up the invalid case for this function as well. If kilometers per hour is invalid here, though, what we're going to have it do is it's going to print out invalid value. But here we have to put we have to put return after this. The reason why we have to put return is to make sure that the method doesn't also run what's under it, because we only want it to print invalid and then stop. So I already set up the main function here with the test cases that were given to us. And here, this is what you call hard code, because we, as a programmer, put in the code. You can also have user input as well, which is not something we're going to go over here, but if you guys want me to go over it, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. So as you can see here, we're all done. We met everything that was needed. We have the format. We calculated it. So if we run it, all the test cases should come out, and we should run it perfectly fine. Let's see. Everything's spaced out. It's invalid. If we want to check, we can just scoot this over just a little bit and scroll down. and check and see that we have the same output layout as them. So we kind of do. But another way to check it, well, the best way to check it is to copy and paste what we just did here into their tester and see if to them ours equals all their solutions. Let's see, fingers crossed. First try. Yes, we got it. So if you guys want to see me do any more videos like this or any more videos related to pseudocode, please don't hesitate to ask or leave it in the comments below. If you guys want me to do other examples like this or just help you guys out with any examples, please let me know. I hope you guys have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe and keep on coding, guys.